Hello, friends. Today we will review this book, Communicator by Charles Duhigg. I have read Charles' book before, The Power of Habit. That was a very powerful book. I think this that book was a very comprehensive, detailed, and very research oriented towards the topic of power of habits. I learned a lot about habits, and afterwards, Atomic Habits came another book and became more popular. So today, what I liked about this book, Super Communicators, when I picked up this book, I thought this book is going to be another communication book. As someone who was not born with great communication skills, I do read a lot of books on communication, how to improve my communication. So when I picked up this book, uh, I expected this to be another communication book. I am surprised. I have finished first 50 pages. Today I'm going to review the first part of the book. And I'm very pleasantly surprised that this book turned out to be different from the rest of the books. As usual, he's a journalist. He focused on research, science research, data to come up with new facts. So a lot of time, a lot of books on communications are focused on, what you need to say next. They say just listen, and a lot of them sound superficial. You should say note head, whether you are listening or not listening, whether you are understanding or not understanding. You just shake head, rephrase what did he say, whatever he said, put it in another way to show him you are doing active listening. This book focuses more on that you need to listen, you need to analyze what other person is saying, what are the emotion, where he is coming from, what are his values, beliefs. You need to be a communicator, you need to know the person, you need to understand, you need to ask questions. So he comes up with this nice framework that most of the great communicator communicates when they are able to reach the level of other person, when you are understanding what other person is saying, what kind of state of mind he is, what is he scared of judgment, then great communication happens. So he said there are three type of conversations. First is what is this really about? Is it about some decision making? Okay, we need to improve our son's grading his exam scores. So this is decision making where you say, okay, we need to get some tuition. You come up with some data, how we can help our kid. Second type of communication is how do you feel? Is this is a emotional conversation? Somebody is being emotional. So we can, if somebody is being emotional, he's talking about some emotions that he is feeling vulnerable, he's feeling sad. So we cannot be practical. Okay, we cannot dictate other person that he need to change his beliefs. So we have to talk at emotional level. And third level of conversation is how are we, who are we. It is about social conversation. It is about how we are being perceived by others. We care, are we are we being judged by other people? So we have to analyze what is this conversation about, where this person is coming from. So next I'm going to quote some stories from the book where he talks about how people use listening skills to get the desired results, to get the decisions they wanted, to persuade somebody to do something which was right. So first he gives a example of a CIA informer. He was trying to recruit some person from Middle East, and he met this person in the Europe. This lady worked for some embassy. He befriended her. He took her from some trips. And finally, he asked, would you work for CIA? We are working for the freedom. He gave his prep talk. The lady from Middle East got scared. She said, no, she's not interested. So he tried one, two tricks, but he learned his in school, nothing worked. So one day, finally, one more final day, he convinces her to meet him. And they meet, and he was thinking what to say. So he decided to throw away his handbook from CIA, and he told that lady about how he feels about his job. He said he was good in nothing. He joined CA. He thought he could make a difference. He could be useful, and he's a failure. He is not succeeding. After hearing his vulnerable talk, the lady started crying. And this CIA agent thought, okay, this is done. I'm not going to recruit anyone. This was the first person he was trying to recruit. The lady said that he's ready to work with him after hearing his story. And she gave him a lot of important information, and he tried to analyze what happened. So over the years, he learned that lady connected her with on emotional level. Lady also felt she was nobody. She was failure. She couldn't make anything worthwhile in her life. So when this CIA agent shared his story, they connected and it worked for him. So this is example of seeing that other person is having emotional conversation. He want to connect with you. So finding the right conversation and getting things done. Second thing is about like there's a jury and there's a very complicated case. There was a guy, he was convicted of a burglary. So what happened? This guy was a little bit challenged. He didn't have much education. He didn't have any rational thinking. He was not that smart, so his friend told him he need a ride. And his friend actually was conducting some robbery, and this friend dropped him, picked him. He got involved in the crime. He was charged with this crime. And this fellow tried to get a job. Somebody advertised him to get a cop job and asked him to buy a gun, get some physical activity. He did. And this person goes to the court where the cop asks him whether he has any gun. And then he said he has a gun. So it seems there's a law. If you are convicted, you cannot have a gun. So he was charged with having illegal weapon in the sense it was illegal, but since he was convicted, he cannot have. So it was a very complicated case. This why guy who was not that smart, who did not know he was doing something wrong. So jury has to take a decision. Did he did he violated the law, and whether it is really a case merit this punishment. So jury was divided. Some people thought he was convicted. Some people were thinking he was not convicted. He was not guilty. So is a super communicator in that jury duty. He started talking to everybody, and he was able to convince people that this case doesn't merit a guilty verdict. And finally, there was a guy who was sold that we need to convict this guy to send this message to the society. And this guy was able to find out where he's coming from, where his beliefs coming from, this super communicator. And he told him that if we send the wrong guy, people may not believe in the system. We have to make sure we do the right thing. We send the right people to the jail, that we convict the right people so that people know this system works. And he was able to convince this person also to change his decision. And both the jury came to unanimous decision, and gave him no guilty verdict. Third case was of a doctor. This doctor was very, very experienced. Patient used to come him, and he used to give the advice to the patient. And lot of time patients would not listen to his advice. They go against his advice, and he could not understand. People are paying him to come to give him advice, and he's giving them the right advice, and nobody is listening to him. Nobody, in the sense, a lot of people were not listening to him. Then over the time he learned that he need to ask people their motivation. He need to ask people questions, what they feel about, what they think about particular treatment, why they want to go through this particular treatment, and uh, what are their emotions, what are their ideas. So when he started asking questions, so he was able to connect with those people on their level, whether they were making some practical decision, or they were making emotional decision, or they were afraid of judgment by other people. So he was able to give them right advice based on that, based on their convictions, values, their culture, their feed, their environment. So that's what he says. The great communicators, they try to understand questions. They try to understand the conversation, where it is coming from. They try to ask lot of good questions to understand, to make other feel that they were heard, and finally give their own opinion. Able to talk at the level which is appropriate for that person. So thanks for watching this video. If you like this video, like it and subscribe to my channel. I will be posting a lot of reviews of books on this channel. Thanks for watching.